I'm Robin Clevett, welcome to my channel. Now, we're out in the middle of nowhere and this particular property has suffered with a really bad water supply. So as a solution, they've got a special tank which is going to hold their mains water that then is going to deliver it on to the property with a pump which is going to give them a much better flow and much better pressure. But my job has been to create a reinforced concrete base, and now I've got to build a structure around it, tie it back into the roof and make it look like this really nice traditional garage. So the first job is I'm going to measure everything out here, going to go and make it all up, and then we're going to come back and we're going to put it all in. This is a typical day in the life of a carpenter. So my first job is to take some measurements. We're going to make it insulated. We're going to use PIR, so obviously this material, and I'm going to use it in between my studs, but at the back I'm going to run a full piece all the way through, and then I'm going to basically form an insulated shell around the inside. And the doors, when I make the doors, they'll be solid doors, and we'll probably bond some insulation onto the back of those and make it as airtight as possible. Now, we're not worried too much about freezing because of the fact that this tank has some insulation, it's twin walled. What we're actually worried about is it getting too warm. We want to stop the heat of the summer getting in and raising the temperature of the water, because water stored really doesn't want to get that warm, especially if you're going to be drinking it, etc. There's lots of regulations around that, but that's not my field of specialism. I'm just doing what I've been asked, and so I'll do a little sketch, we'll have a look at it, and then we'll crack on and build it. Cool, so I've got my basic measurements from this. I'm going to take it over, cut all my components. I'm going to make a wall on this side, I'm going to make a wall on that side, and then we're going to put some wall plates over the top, extend them out so we can put a barge board over the front to give some cover to the doors, and then we will make the roof on top. Now, we're going to match this pitch, and the reason why I'm going to match this pitch of this roof, so the angle of this roof, is that I can use a valley tile in the corner and it's going to wrap round. Now, these are what we call plain tiles. Now, plain tiles really want to be put on a roof at a minimum pitch of 35 degrees. I've measured the pitch of this roof and it's 32 degrees. So what they've got is like a cat slide roof here, so it's steeper at the top and then it splays out at the bottom. So it's a little bit less than what we'd like to put them on at. But what I think they've done by looking at the gauge is they've closed the gauge up slightly. Now, generally speaking, I would always be a bit nervous about this, but it's clearly worked and it hasn't leaked. So we've obviously got to copy it as well. So ideally I'd want to be at 35, but if I did a pitch at 35, then we wouldn't be able to get a valley tile to go around the corner. To use a purpose-made valley tile, you need equal pitches matching each other. You can just about get away with it if there's a 1 or 2 degree difference. A decent roofer can get away with that, but generally speaking, wants to be a matching pitch. So I am building a very straightforward structure. This is the front. We've got a little roof on the top like this. It's going to pitch back in, it's going to form a valley into the main roof. It's going to be studded through, obviously, like this: rafter, ridge, rafter, 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 layboard up the roof here. And so then obviously this is the main roof here, coming back up. So that's exactly what we're doing. It's two sides. We will have a small collar high up, which basically stops anything from moving and spreading, because our doors need to allow for that existing tank or the new tank to come out. So that's basically what we're doing. We've got common rafters coming back into valley rafters on lay boards, and that's basically what we'll do. Here are a few tools that I'll be using. Circular saws, a left and a right. Roofing square, metric roofing square of course. Handsaw, tape measure, pouch, nail gun. Here's the timber. I broke it all down into smaller lengths, the lengths I needed before I transported it here. Ear defenders, basic PPE, and I'm ready to rock. Got a chop saw out here as well, just to make sure my studs can be perfect and true, every single one. So I'm going to rattle on, make the frames, and we're going to be insulating it as we go as well. So what you saw me do there was, I've got a very simple saw table here. I always knock one up when I'm out on site. We've been doing masses of work here. We just unbolt the saw, bolt it back on, and it allows me to lay long lengths on, put a screwed stop in, and it's a quick way of producing lots and lots and lots of repetitious work, whether it's cladding or stud work. So I've got all the studs done now. I've got my 6 uprights, I've got my sole plates and my head plates. We're going to knock those up as frames now. We're going to take them over, bolt them into the ground. So I'm using my framing square on the heads and the sole plates, so I've got both walls here. It's very straightforward. We have a stud at each end and we have one in the middle. So all I need to do is actually mark just the middle studs, because the side studs will just be flush, so I'll just be fixing them flush. So to do this, to measure this out, find my center. That's my center here. Then I've got a section of the timber that we're using. I'll show you this way. And I'll mark my shoulders. That's where my stud is. If I was doing a longer wall, I'd do exactly the same thing. Then just using my framing square, transfer them across. That's my stud positions. And if you want to be really accurate when you're fixing your studs, you can then pull a line through each one here. And that's it, ready to rock. That's the frames knocked up. I'll square these up, brace them, and then get the ply sorted. That's it. That's nicely squared up. Now I'm just going to attach the plastic plywood. So we're going to use that plastic plywood as a DPC. I prefer to use that because it's nice and thick and there's never going to be any damp coming up through that. Decent galvanised plus nail. Then we're ready to stand these frames in and get them fixed. We'll ply them in situ because we want to cut round the feather boarding that's already on the feather edge that's already on the structure. I've lifted the first frame into position. I'm going to fix a couple of fixings into the slab. So I'm just going to use a concrete type screw and I'm going to screw straight down through the sole plate into the slab. Front and back. This will set it all exactly where I want it. Just check that for parallel at the back at the bottom. Perfect. And we'll give that a fixing. Check it with the front. Perfect. Concrete screw. Whack that home. One in the front. Now we just want to get the back fixed into the building again. Check it for plumb up the front. The most important bit. That's lovely. And we'll stab that in there. Now what I want to do is just brace my work here. So I'm going to tack a timber on across the front two frames. I've already cut these, they're exactly the right length we need. So it's just a matter of holding it. Just set it down a bit away from the top. Now we can get our cladding on. I've got another piece of timber which actually goes in the bottom to get past this feather edge cladding, so we'll get that rattled in. Pop that in there, takes up that. And that's it. Now we're ready for the ply. Let's get the ply over here. I'm going to scribe it in around these boards here, just so it fits a little bit tighter. I'm going to cut my wall plates to go on top of those side partitions, and because the roof is quite shallow, I can't get these by turning the saw blade round, because the angle of the cut is 58 degrees. It's a seat cut. When I say a seat cut on my square, that represents the rafter. That is the seat cut, so if you imagine that's the wall plate, it would be cutting over the existing roof on that angle. So the way I do that is I'll attach the two wall plates together. I'll just line them up in line, so corner through to corner. I'll just pop a couple of fixings in to hold them steady while I cut it, because I need to cut it from both sides with the circular saw. Then I'll mark my seat cut across both pieces, like so. And then I'll use a square just to transfer them down the faces, so I can get them over to the other side. Flip that over. And I'll transfer those marks back here, and then using the circular saw, so I'll get my seat cut back across here to both lines there and there. Then I can run the circular saw, and by fixing them together, I've got a much nicer, flatter top to cut them off. I can also, as I'm going in with the circular saw, make sure the blade is with the lines, the square lines down the side. So I'll do that first. Pop it over, repeat from the other side. Let's get back there where you can see it a bit more clearly. There we go. And there we have our angles, absolutely perfect to lay over the roof. I'm going to leave them long so I can fix them in, then I can measure exactly the projection of the wall plate, cut it off in situ, then it's perfect. So, bit of rain, typical life of a tradie, eh? So I'm just going to put my insulation in. Now what I'm going to do is I've got insulation at the back all the way across, and then I'm going to put panels of insulation in. Let's see if I can squeeze this one in here. Oh, it's a bit of a tricky one because there's a little bit of batten there. There we go. Get it up to the top. That's it. That's it. Perfect fit. Gives that structure some serious rigidity, and moreover insulation. Keep the rain out as well. Let's get another piece in here. There, look at that. Absolutely mint. Using the ISC 240 for this again. Cannot beat that tool. And if you frame out everything nice and parallel, then you can cut all your insulation the same. Saves on a lot of time. and you end up with a nice job. Let's whack the last bit in here. Straight away I've got a little bit of cover. Yeah, lovely job. You can't beat this Gapo tape for a perfect fit. It's basically a game changer. Right, let's get these wall plates fixed on. Just get the top tile out the way so I can slide it back into the roof. There we go. Lovely. Slide that there. Pop that back in there. Line it through. And we'll get that spiked on there. Get the nail gun and wallop it on. Same the other side. Oh, grim weather. We don't mind. Never hurt anybody. Unless you're in a monsoon, which we wouldn't want to wish on anybody. You can rely on bad weather in the UK, boys. There we go, slot that underneath there. Nice and tight. Flush the outside up. Bang it home. Let's get my rapid fire on, I think that's a bit better. Good. Now, as I said a moment ago, I left these long, so I've hit the roof and I can just cut these off exactly where I want them now for the gable to give me the projection I need to protect the face of this structure. Right, I think we're nearly ready to apply these sides. Plies all here, get that on. So I'm going to cut the ply. I'm going to just attach these two sheets together with a couple of screws. I cut through both of them at the same time. I leave my square edge face side at the top, cut this off at the bottom, which is going to go into the base, so it doesn't have to be a perfectly accurate cut.